Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming out today to this lovely setting for this grand occasion. As Clay said, my name is Vicki Schmitz-Block.
And I'm Dietrich Schmitz.
And I'm Julie Schmitz-Broker.
We're the three Schmitzes. Okay. And there are many more in the audience here. For just a few minutes, we want to share with you a bit of our story, our West Seattle story. Of course, we trust that you will find some of your own story in ours, because we all have gathered here today for a common purpose, to show our appreciation and to share and celebrate and support the heritage of this wonderful peninsula we call home.
Of course, the core of our story is our family, the Schmitz family. It goes back several generations here in West Seattle, and it seeped into our souls long before we became to recognize it as adults.
It is a legacy. Oh, sorry. It is a legacy of civic duty, of giving back, of gratitude for what we have been given. And it has stuck with us, whether we have stayed in West Seattle, or like me, moved thousands of miles away.
So, who were the original Schmitzes? All of you in this room have heard the name. We know it from Schmitz Park, the cathedral of old-growth timber that rises from Alki up the hill to the Admiral District. We know it from the Emma Schmitz viewpoint, the stretch of land along Puget Sound next to Beach Drive. We know it from Schmitz Park Elementary School, where every year since the school opened more than 50 years ago, a Schmitz family member has spoken at the opening day flag ceremony. And we know it from the Dr. Henry Schmitz Hall at the University of Washington. And most recently, we know the Schmitz name because the log that became the totem pole that was restored and gloriously unveiled last June at the Log House Museums was harvested from, you guessed it, Schmitz Park. The original West Seattle Schmitz was Ferdinand Schmitz, who was born near the beginning of Abraham Lincoln's first term of office in 1860, but on the other side of the globe in Germany. He was not his parents' eldest child or son, so he knew he would not inherit the family property in Germany. In his teenage years, Ferdinand came to the San Francisco Bay Area, tried and failed in business, and with a few coins in his pocket, he headed north to Seattle to start all over again as a teenager. Later, he sent for his childhood sweetheart, Emma, and she arrived just 1 month after the Great Seattle Fire of 1889. Ferdinand was a natural businessman, serving on the Union Savings and Trust Bank Board, and it wasn't long before he acquired a lot of commercial property in what's now Pioneer Square. He owned 3 hotels downtown, including Seattle's finest, the Butler Hotel at 2nd and James. In his commercial property, he had some of the most prominent Seattle businesses as his tenants, including Bartell Drug and Frederick and Nelson. He also bought land in West Seattle. His dream was to settle along Puget Sound. By 1904, the Schmitz home along Alki Beach was completed, and Beach Drive, It was called Sans Souci, French for without care. 3 years later, this peninsula of West Seattle annexed to the rest of Seattle, the city, and Ferdinand soon was appointed to the Seattle Parks Board and was elected as the first member of the Seattle City Council from West Seattle. In 1908, Ferdinand and Emma Schmitz made their most significant contribution to the city. They donated 30 acres of land near their Beach Drive home for a park on one condition, that it never be logged. Thus was born Schmitz Park, which eventually grew to be 53 acres. The 4 children of Ferdinand and Emma were no less formidable and public-minded. Ferdinand Schmitz Jr., who was born in West Seattle at Sans Souci, was an industrialist rising to leadership positions at Pacific Car and Foundry, Somerville Steel, and Berger Industries on Harbor Island. He was also president of Everett Pacific Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company, and he was a driving force in the Lighthouse for the Blind. Dr. Henry Schmitz brought forestry to national attention at the University of Washington. Later, for 6 years in the 50s, he served the university as its president and greatly expanded the educational scholarship opportunities there when he served as president emeritus after his term was up. The daughter, Emma Schmitz-Hartman, was a longtime volunteer for the Red Cross. She was active on the boards of United Good Neighbors, today's United Way, and the Salvation Army, and she rose to be national president of the Campfire Girls. Dietrich Schmitz became president of Washington Mutual Savings Bank, served on the boards of Safeco, PACCAR, Seafirst, and Boeing, and was elected to the Seattle School Board, serving 31 years. A record still stands today. It is through Dietrich's son, Alan, that I became a member of the Schmitz family. I married Alan in 1968, and somehow I eventually fitted in. I was the daughter of a police chief who was always helping people in our small town. I learned at an early age that all you really need to do when problems arise is get the right people together and get a good mix. Not all things happen in corporate boardrooms. So my role has been often to be a catalyst. I've worked on supporting Fauntleroy Children's Center, Fauntleroy School. I even jumped into the political process long ago, running for office, and I didn't win. I tried to promote public safety by founding the Friends of Schmitz Park at a time when the park really needed help, and helping preserve the family traditions at Schmitz Park School. I also see much of the Schmitz legacy in my children, Julie and Dietrich. Sorry.
For me, gotcha. For me, it's about the values of philanthropy, of giving back, of the love of mankind and volunteer service. And it seems to be in every part of my life. Not on the front lines, but behind the scenes, as part of the infrastructure. For many years, I worked at the University of Washington and in the financial services. But a few years ago, I moved to Texas, where I really found my home at Executive Service Corps of Houston, one of 24 national affiliates. Seattle has its own chapter, by the way. You may know it as 501 Commons. I'm really fortunate because I work for a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits, just like the Southwest Seattle Historical Society, to get better at serving their missions. We've helped thousands of organizations with everything from strategic planning to staff training to self-governance, and to do that game-changing work for organizations here and abroad that focus on a wide range of missions, including environmental education, literacy, and even teaching beekeeping to empower and lift up women out of poverty in Pakistan. I am part of a team that supports 60 volunteer consultants, from the for-profit executives to nonprofit professionals. I help our nonprofit prove its own worth, so that keeps being an affordable resource to other nonprofits. While I'm not at work, I really have a heart for the arts. I volunteer with check-in and registration at the Symphony. I also volunteer at the Association of Fundraising Professionals by helping to lead an annual conference for more than 800 advancement professionals, officers, to raise money for their organization so they can carry out their work. At home, my husband and I do a lot of informal counseling to help people in their hour of need. It's nice to be the go-to couple, as I often think of my family's legacy, helping people. And so does my brother Dietrich.
When I think about my family's legacy, one thing that comes to mind is that I served as a volunteer community chaplain for the Seattle Police Department for the past 12 years. I minister to the community members affected by serious incidents, and I am in contact with them and their families, often being there for them in their first hours of need during a tragedy. I do it because there's a difference between going through a tragedy alone as opposed to with someone else. Many times the chaplain is the first person to be there. We show up and are present. That's our secret. That isn't really a secret, but it's true. Of course, it can be a difficult job. I don't relish it or love it, but I can do it. I just do it because it needs to be done. It also gives me the idea that I have a role in this world to help make it a better place. Am I in it for myself, or am I in it for all of us? The concept of self is broadly promoted in our culture today. But the wiser view is that we are all in it together. My family gave me a sense that it's not all about accumulating material goods. You can live more enjoyably, you can live a more enjoyable life by helping the people around you to do better. It's very practical. It's in your own interest to be interested in the well-being of others. You're just happier. I myself have been in the mortgage business for a long time. And when I think of Schmitz-Block, it's easy to see how people could think, wow, imagine the great fortune you could make by developing that land. But that park is unique and irreplaceable. You can go into that park and breathe. You can watch people go in and then come out and see the difference in how they look as a result of having walked in that wilderness. It makes me wonder, in the early 1900s, what was the thought process to donate that land in perpetuity? Who among us these days, if we had possession of such land, would contribute it for the good of all of us?
I feel like we descendants of the Schmitzes are the guardians of treasures and the important gifts of our ancestors, the Schmitz family. The parks, the school, and their dedication to education and service. There is also a sort of institutional memory, a genuine sense of history that we have. What says it best is the resolution passed by the City Park Board back in 1908 when the first West Seattle Schmitzes donated the land for Schmitz Park. These are those words. This board appreciates the fullness of Mr. Schmitz's and his wife's citizenship. By embracing the opportunities which the city presented, they gained a competence to live here. In a spirit of reciprocity, they are now favoring a community which favored them. This sentiment ought and does bring to them distinction. Their act teaches us that we too owe a duty to this city, which as yet has not been fully discharged. And we feel that their example will be emulated by others to whom this city has been most generous. We cannot overlook one of the motives which prompted the donors. That is, that labor might be given to the unemployed, that hunger might not reach their wives and children. Excuse me. Thus, in the inception of this gift, there is a blessing, and it will continue as one as long as children walk and play within the boundaries of Schmitz-Block. And it will stand, excuse me, as a monument to the donors, of which their children and their children's children will be more proud and more benefited than by the inheritance of wealth. Oh. Sorry. text is so telling. None of us has 30 acres to give, but we can give our time and our resources. Sometimes it's just about showing up. And maybe our community needs these values now more than ever. All of this comes down to one word: gratitude. And we are so grateful for the Southwest Historical Society and the work that they do. The work that everybody in his organization does to preserve the photos, the stories, the historic one-of-a-kind buildings, and yes, the family legacies of the people that live here, and it's so important. It is all about bringing people together for a common purpose. And what we are doing today, right now in this room, is fundamental to our happiness, to our satisfaction with life, and to our sense of well-being. We know that the heritage that we share, that we celebrate, that we support, has value to all of us. And will one day have deep value to young people who may not realize it yet, young people like we were, like all of us were. Right now, I would like to bring up all 27 members of the extended Schmitz family who are attending today's brunch. Schmitzes, did you? Okay. So, hello? Are you up here? Everybody? Yep. I ask all of you to think back to when you were a child and the influence of your own family. Your story is different from ours, but we all have common threads of gratitude. Those threads have become the ties that bind, that have connected us to West Seattle, and will do so forever. What we hope is that you have seen some of yourselves in our story, and we trust that you will give this organization your full support. Thank you.